All right, boys, showtime. Let's do it.
Tonight I wanted to tell you about our special guest, Fleetwood Covington. He's an artist musician, and he works in a unique medium, as you'll see in the gallery, but he uses his paintings and his music to tell the story of a unique time and place in Southern history.
Bones got to drink before you start to think. Say I slide on to the woods where all there is woods. Cause a man white, tall and mean and guarding his corn machine. Well, he took all he wants, even more than he needs. We better run or fly, cause here comes tall and mean. Well, they both start to fight, and they both start to bleed. But to me it's such a sight, cause they both can barely see. Did it start as a child or just a bad dream? But there's two men lying dead behind that corn machine.
I feel a deep connection to the landscape and its people, and I'm always trying to capture its unique beauty, energy, and humor. And now I'd like to introduce you to Fleetwood Covington.
Let's see if I can squeeze back. Pretty much like the introduction said, I've always been an artist, and I've always been a musician. And with the commercialism of music and everything over the last really 20 years, I just wanted to dig back to the beginnings of what I believe is American music as we know it. But I dug into the Delta blues, the greats of them, Charlie Patton, Mississippi Fred McDowell, just dozens and dozens of them. The Migration of Chicago from Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker turned it into something else. But I like the very first roots of it. I'm going to play you some songs tonight as close to the original recordings as I possibly can. But I'm also going to do a couple other little things. One old fellow they used to call Barrel House, Booker White, Booker T. Washington. He had a hit when he was like 25 years old with Victor called Fixin' to Die Blues. Well, they gave him a contract. He recorded 4 songs. They gave him a little bit of money. He went to Chicago, and I can't say for sure, but 2 different people I know, I think Muddy had something to do with it. Anyway, he shot a guy in the leg. He got put in Parchment Farm prison. There, he spent his stardom for the next 4 years. When he got out, he thought he was still a rock star, except nobody else did. But Booker White, he's a unique guy. I was talking with Mr. King, and I said, well, tell me about your uncle, Booker White. He said, it's not my uncle, he's my cousin. I said, well, did he give you your first guitar? He said, no. I said, well, he shot a guy in the leg, and he got put in Parchment Farm prison. And he said, no, he killed 2 men and got put in Parchment Farm prison. But the governor heard the song Fixin' to Die Blues and gave him early release at 4 years. That's the power of music right there. That's why a lot of guys wrote songs in prison. That was a joke, right? This is a song, Fixin' to Die Blues. I'll try to play it for y'all. I got a funny feeling in my heart, babe, I'm fixin' to die, babe, I'm fixin' to die. I got a funny feeling in my eyes, babe, I'm fixin' to die. I know I was born to die, but I hate to leave my children crying. Your mother treated me just like I was her baby child, was her baby child. Your mother treated me just like I was her baby child. That's why I find it so hard to come back home tonight. Just as sure as we live every day, sure he's born to die, sure he's born to die. Just as sure as we live, sure he's born to die. I know I was born to die, but I hate to leave my children crying. So many nights at the fireside, how my children mother would cry, how my children mother would cry. So many nights at the fireside, bunch of different times, and luckily enough, there's a decent amount of photographs of him. He was kind of an unknown kind of guy, but him and Bucker were actually friends, and some guys from New York got together in '62 and actually took him on 2 world tours. This is back in kind of the beatnik days when Skip James, another blues guy, was kind of resurging with Killing Floor Blues and Devil Got My Woman. The pop scene, so to speak, back then finally recognized the greatness of blues, and Skip James was probably the first Delta performer that ever really played in front of a large group of people, although he did it when he was an old man. You know. But anyway, Fred Lewis, there's so many of these guys. He got drunk, fell asleep on the railroad track, the train came along and cut his leg off. Well, I did a picture of him and Bucka White's just sitting on the concrete. It was during their '62 world tour on the hard concrete at a bus station. But a guy said, well, his leg looks a little funny in that picture. You know, I said, well, he fell on the sleeper railroad track. The train cut it off. He's actually got a fake leg sticking out there, you know. He's another one of my favorite, Fred Lewis. One of the sweetest songs. It's a little ditty that he wrote called When My Baby Left Me. Well, my baby left me, she never said a mumbling word. My baby left me, she never said a mumbling word. My baby left me, she never said a mumbling word. One night she seen it was just something that she heard. Well, she caused the rumbling, but I caused the falling down. She caused the rumbling, but I caused the falling down. She caused the rumbling, but I caused the falling down. If I never see her, I'd never turn around. Babe, I never thought you would treat me this old way. Never thought, babe, you'd treat me this way. Never thought, babe, you'd treat me this way. I'm going back to Avery and I'm going back to better stay. Well, I dreamed last night the whole round world was mine. I dreamed last night the whole round world was mine. Last night I thought the world was mine. One night I told my baby, she just put me down. Trouble I've been having and don't nobody know. How much trouble I've been having and don't nobody know. Trouble I've been having and don't nobody know. Goodbye, I hate to see you go. Another Mississippi Delta guy, Mississippi Fred McDowell, they call his blues hill music. Hill music. Him and Skip James, who lived near. The thing that's so unusual about the Delta is, man, there were like 8 John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters, Charlie Patton, Bucka White, Furry Lewis, I mean, the list goes on, but they were from a 60-mile radius, you know, in Mississippi. And it was such an art form. I mean, I've studied so many tastes, like W.C. Handy's called the Godfather of Blues. No, he was not. You know, Charlie Patton played with W.C. Handy in his band. That's where W.C. Handy picked up any blues that he knew from. And there's one song that Charlie Patton wrote, Sweet Dream. I can't play it, but there's 14 phrases in it that are Star Spangled Banner exactly. You think Charlie Patton ever got paid a dime for it? And that's rampant among the blues. I mean, nobody got paid for anything. Skip James recorded 23 songs, but technically 24, but only got paid for 3 of them, you know? But back to Furry Lewis. He'd only met Mississippi Fred McDowell one time, and he said that he never played the slide with a pork chop bone. They always said Mississippi Fred McDowell used a pork chop bone. He said it wasn't a pork chop bone. He said, how can you play slide with a pork chop bone? He said it was like a cow bone, like a femur or something that he used. I said, well, that makes more sense, but that was the first slide that the hill people used, you know, and probably on a dulcimer or something, but it got, anyway, adopted. Mississippi Fred McDowell, You Got to Move. I'm originally from Florence, South Carolina, and let me get this out of here. That's my left cordless mic. But I've always lived in the South. Always worked in the South. Used to work tobacco in Florence, South Carolina. My grandfather grew up on the farm. But me and my brothers, we were always a little slanted or bent another different way. But so we always grew up in any kind of music, you know. But being raised in the South and where, like I said, music is now, I feel a vital effort needs to be made on the South's part to produce and show its arts, what we own, and so to speak. Because it doesn't quite seem to be working the other way sometimes. But anyway, growing up in Beaufort, South Carolina for even 20 years, I came accustomed with the Gullah territory, or the Gullah language, the Gullah people, which is fading as we speak. I used to have a studio on top of Penn Center. Penn Center was the first black school in America. I grew up blacks being as close as my brothers and sisters. Anyway, when I moved to Beaufort, there used to be this old fellow that walked on the side of the road, wearing exactly what I'm wearing right now, except with a bow tie that he tied. During the middle of August, he carried a briefcase, and in that briefcase he used to make nets, handmade cast nets, so pretty you wouldn't dare throw on an oyster ring. Every day for about 9 years, I'd stop, because I lived out on the island. I had a pickup truck with good air conditioning in it. I said, and his name was Paul Eves. I said, Mr. Eves, get in this truck. You're gonna die here. I mean, it's 14 miles between Beaufort and Frogmore, which is St. Helena's. But it was one day, probably August, burning up hot. I probably maybe stopped at least 100 times and asked him to get in. This day, he got in the truck. And I knew he wasn't a man of many words, but he asked me, he said, do you know why men ain't got no tail? I said, do what? He said, you know why men ain't got no tail? I was like, no, I don't know. Tell me, why don't man have a tail? He said, well, you see that? In the beginning, God been make mine. And he set him down in that garden. And he set him down in that garden and tell him, boy, and jaw that convenient around that garden have a fine time. And Adam been walking around that garden about 2 or 3 days and finally filled up with the pure Lord so many what to do. So Lord come down from the heaven and said, Adam, you know, what the hell are you? And Adam said, you know, Lord, I just been fixing to ask you the same thing. He said, what does it mean? And the Lord said, I think you've been in the arms around this garden to look after you. So the whole Lord take the head and the rib and the piece of lip, and he make the arms, and he called that the woman's Eve. He said, now, I will leave you two down here in this garden, but ain't one thing I ain't want if you do. I ain't want if you touch it on the tree over there. I don't count, and I know how many did. So Adam went on back up to heaven. Lord went on back up to heaven. Adam went back to heaven. Not yet. Adam and Eve been walking around that garden making friends with all the environment and crashes. By the time along come that serpent. And that serpent been a coax and off his tasty apple. And finally she slipped up and she take one little small bite at the apple. As soon as they do, the lightning had flashed, the thunder been rolled, and the Lord puts out the hell and called, Adam! And Adam been hiding in that fig tree, and that fig tree just a bit shaking, like a hurricane hit him. So Adam jump out that fig tree, take his foot in his hand, and he stretch out on that garden. Finally look over his right shoulder, see the Lord been getting on him, and say, great God, I gotta get out of this garden now. So he finally look and he see a hole in the fence. So where the hog been root, said, next time I'm gonna come back out and try to get through that hole. So next thing you know, he make a round for that hole, and he jump for it, and he gets stick. And along come the Lord with the gold axe. You know, all got tools and gold, you know. Come around with the gold axe and he chop off his tail. That's why man ain't got no tail now. Run off, steal him out when the field plow. That's a true story, Mr. Paul Lee. Mr. Paul Lee. Who I think the father of the Delta Blues is Charlie Patton. Most people took him as a drunk buffoon. If you ever heard just pieces of his recording, you'd agree with him. But once you start listening to the man's music, the guy was a genius, and he meant to make his voice sound certain ways, and I can't even hint. You'd have to. Let me interject this. A lot of times kids will ask me, do you have a CD? Do you have a CD? You don't want one of my CDs. Look up Yazoo Records and get all these guys the straight first recordings of them. You know, I'm literally a pale imitation of it. I mean, that's why I don't that's why I don't have CDs, you know, I mean, it's, listen to the real guys, you know. And the thing that amazes me about this music is it was just written so early. Like this song was Charlie Patton, it's called Poor Me. It's written like 1926, you know, and it has a modern feel to it. Wonder why. It's on me, oh me, you must take pity on me. I ain't got me nobody to take pity on me. You may go, you may stay, but she'll come back some sweet day. I can see her, Lord, but she don't see me. Under the moon, look pretty, I shine down through the trees. I can see the baby won't you About 9 months ago, a college kid out of Houston, Sean Ford, called me and said, Mr. Covington, would you mind if we use that Blind Willie Johnson piece you got on your site? You know, I can get it off of there and make some t-shirts. We're trying to get some money to get together and get Blind Willie Johnson a tombstone. I said, John, back. Blind Willie Johnson does not have a tombstone. A lot of people, you've heard blind this and blind that, but Blind Willie Johnson was from Texas. Right, a little bit even before Charlie Patton's time. When NASA sent up Space Probe Voyager, they wanted to give a representation of music, you know, an audible source. So they chose different songs from Mozart, Chuck Berry, and Blind Willie Johnson. So somebody thought about it now, I mean, to represent, you know, humans or whatever. But this particular song is called "Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground." It's the most hauntingest song that I know personally, and I can only hint on how he used to play it. if you just listen to some of the old Delta blues, and Alan Lomax was a guy that went to the Mississippi Delta in like the 20s, 30s, and 40s. He actually has the Alan Lomax Foundation. He was really the first to do any great recordings of the Delta greats. Son House, he sat in a room in Son House and recorded him. He took a lot of shots. He did all this for the Library of Congress out of Houston, Texas. But the Alan Lomax Foundation, there's a book called The Land Where Blues Began. And in a lot of my artwork, I try to depict a time where, I don't want to say there was no cell phones because I lived by one, but it was just much simpler. The values were at a different place. Alan Lomax has started the Society for Cultural Equity, and to give you the essence of it, it's like a guy who plays a drum in the hills is just as important as the CEO of Xerox, so to speak. You know, it's what that human worth is. It's not a monetary thing. And also, being an artist, I meet some strange people. I do a lot of different things. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. But I've got a friend of mine that's here tonight, and he's an accomplished jazz percussionist out of New York City. He's also Kenny the Tin Man Hoff. About 8 months ago, I'd known him for 2 years. The first time I saw his work, I said, Kenny, you know, we got to get together. Well, it took about 2 years, and finally, about 8 months ago, I said, Kenny, I said, I want you to make some frames. And he's like, you know, well, what do you mean, like a deer in the headlights, so to speak? I said, it's real simple. See that when you already made a frame around with a mirror in it? Take this Muddy Waters and put it in that. And he did, and it's clicked, and that's what these framed collaboration pieces between me and Kenny Hopper in the gallery. It just works. It's antiquity. He goes in and rips down all these old antique decorative ceiling tiles and stuff. But he's also a real good friend of mine, at which time I'm going to invite up on stage with, he can't quite bring his xylophone, but he can bring his tone box, and we're going to try a couple of little numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, can you give a welcome to Kenny Hopper? Everybody likes a ukulele, right? My dad used to play one. He wouldn't want to hoot on it, but he used to play one. We were doing a show together in Buckhead, Atlanta, and I was staying in an overpriced Priceline hotel. It was nice.
You can get a lot done in a cheap hotel.
I got no complaints, but there wasn't anything to do because I didn't feel like going back down all that traffic, so I sat up in the hotel room and wrote this little song called Buckhead. Go ahead. I got some other friends here tonight from Wilmington. Mr. Mark Giles over in the corner there. Yeah, that's my other kind of friend. You can tell by that laugh, huh? That pretty much reminds me of the jokes that Snoop says is two old fellas sitting around and one says, "Hey, James, if you had $1 million, would you give me half?" The guy said, sure would, right? Me and you been, we've been like brothers our whole life. He said, "Well, now, if you had 50 cow, would you give me 25? I said, "Sure, Ronnie. I mean, if you married my sister, we like family." He said, "Well, now, if you had 2 hogs, would you give me one of them?" He said, "Shoot, man, you know I ain't got but 2 hogs." My friend.